This video is going to be a film study look at the Lions' defensive breakdowns, particularly in the first half against the Washington Commanders on Saturday night. Obviously, it's a belated video, and I understand the news cycle and Lions fans have probably moved on to the news about Ben Johnson moving on to the Chicago Bears. I'll have more on that, on my thoughts concerning that move in a couple of minutes, number one, as well as an interesting angle that I would propose to you that you try to adopt. But in any case, Aaron Glenn's defense obviously outmatched from a talent standpoint at times this season as the year went on. I actually don't think they were outmatched man for man against this Washington offense. I think that the Commanders' offense, option-based spread attack, if you will, is essentially a numbers game. Now, my analogy here for a moment I think is going to work, and then it's going to break down quickly, but hopefully it's one that makes sense. I'm a big basketball guy. Spent a shit ton of time, too much time, in fact, on the basketball court for about 24 or 25 years before I got old. The spread option was initially called basketball on grass. I'm old enough to remember how when it was referred to as that. And we actually, in the high school that I was blessed enough to coach at, we used that as a recruiting tool, essentially trying to get some of the basketball players out, more of them to come out, give us more athletes on the field on offense and defense, spread the field in a way that puts more wide receivers on the field and less guys that are considered tight ends and fullbacks, because we didn't have as many of those tight ends and fullbacks in our school. Now, the analogy starts to break down here in a moment because it essentially works out numbers wise like a fast break in basketball. And you're going to hear me refer to 4-on-3 and 5-on-3 during this video from a defensive standpoint. Really, I should say 3-on-5 or 3-on-4 for the offense. But it's also a very conservative offense that Washington ran. And here's what I mean by that. And this is, again, where the analogy, I think, starts to crumble. Jaden Daniels is making decisions to force defenders to be wrong. And they were able to do that. It wasn't just Jaden Daniels. The offensive coordinator does a great job of getting them in different formations and out of different personnel groups. You know, they're in 10 personnel, which is very rare in the NFL, 11 personnel more often than that, and then occasionally 12 personnel. The formations just gave the Lions tremendous horizontal conflict. From a conceptual standpoint, I think Kirby Joseph needed to be used on the quarterback more often than we probably saw during the year. I felt like Aaron Glenn's defense just kind of ran what they've been running this year. There didn't seem to be any real specific adaptations for what the Commanders did. I recognize some of you may disagree with that. You're welcome to let me know what you think of that thought in the comment section. I'm going to spend significant time talking about alignment and how that alignment kind of determines what you're able to defend from an individual player standpoint, specifically as it relates to Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone, second-level players. Before we get to the video, let me just offer one thought on Ben Johnson going to the Bears. It's obviously heartbreaking to see a coordinator who performed at such a high level move on, particularly with the way the season ended. You guys know my thoughts if you watched the reaction video. I think his workflow was interrupted from a time commitment standpoint prior to the game against the Commanders. In my opinion, the work performance, the product, I should say, on the field Saturday night displays that. I recognize that there are people who will disagree with it, but moving on from that thought and proposing to you a way to help you deal with the fact that he's moving to a divisional opponent. Think about the hypocrisy that a lot of Bears fans are going to put out there on social media, on the radio, on television in the next 7 or 8 months. What are they going to have to do? They have to watch Lions offense film from the last 3 years. Top 5 offense 2022, top 5 offense 2023, number 1 scoring offense in the league 2024. And they're going to have to praise it, laud it. They're going to have to wonder how he's able to do all these things and what the benefits are going to be for their players. Keep in mind, this is probably 7 weeks after those same fans were being critical of the Lions team, the way that it was constructed. Your players, Amon-Ra St. Brown, guess what? They hope that DJ Moore, can be a reasonable facsimile of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think he can, but the opportunity for DJ Moore's career is real. It's obvious that he can be used in a similar manner in Ben Johnson's offense. I don't think it's plug and play. I certainly don't think it's a 1-for-1 ratio, but Bears fans are going to offer it as such. And that, to me, is a small consolation prize. And I know that you won't pay attention to, or probably don't want to pay attention to what Bears fans say at all on social media, but that would be a thought that I would offer to you as something that you could hang your hat on a little bit and recognize the hypocrisy that's out there when a coordinator or a player switches teams and people's opinions switch up. I have one more thought about that as we get to the end of the video. But let's get to the film. Forgive the long lead in. Again, we're going to focus on just the first half here, to be honest with you. So I'm a little surprised at some of these coverages that Aaron Glenn played. I'm going to pause this here in a moment. This is what I would call a two deep, three under. Not sound, but you do see this, in the NFL and other levels of football often. This is on the first possession. It's a 2nd and 4, and the Commanders are in 21 personnel, so they got 2 running backs on the field and then 1 tight end. And in this case, that running back, I believe it's Eckler, he was just given so much space. It's not like he really had to do anything to make some of these plays because of the coverage and the blitz structure that Aaron Glenn was utilizing. You can see the space that's afforded to him. Like I said, it's a 2nd and 4 on the first possession. Chip release by Eckler. Just too much room. I mean, how do you evaluate what a second-level defender is supposed to do here? So, Branch and Anzalone are both on edge blitzes. So we're talking about here and here being used as blitzers. Nobody's dropping out. There's just too much damn space here between the top of the numbers. If you're going to have these guys sit in the flats, which is essentially what they're doing, I personally don't think it's a sound coverage. But when you've got an athletic quarterback back here on a 2nd and 4, and you're thinking maybe it's going to be an option play call out of 21 personnel, okay, I understand why you may want to go to that at times. Here's my only problem with this. You're telling me you can't change this call? You've got a running back set away from the tight end. Look how wide the tight end is. You've got a running back in here in the slot. This is not a run play. They're not going to run split zone with him across the field, that running back across the field, kicking out an edge defender, giving this running back potentially a two-way go. I haven't seen too many run plays where that running back, in this case Eckler, like I said, it's a 2nd and 4, is going to be tasked with doing anything from a run blocking standpoint. That's a chip release on a pass play, ends up going for a huge gain. I thought it was a very poor coverage decision by Aaron Glenn. And so what I mean by that, let me be clear. The players on the field not having the authority or not being willing to change the coverage call based upon the formation is my largest concern. Moving forward here, like I said, this is still going to be the first possession. My apologies. I've got a playlist queued up on another screen. So this is 21 personnel on 1st and 10 on the first quarter, and they go sniffer. So what I mean by sniffer out of the 21 personnel is you put the 2 running backs here stacked onto each other into the boundary. So they've created what some would call a 3-by-2 into the boundary. 3 receivers there, 2 running backs and 1 receiver, and then tight end and the receiver to the field. So I think Cliff Kingsbury did a really nice job of manipulating stuff from a field and boundary standpoint. It's a triple option. So a triple option look. The running back is crossing Daniel's face. The other running back is going out to be the pitch man. Jack Campbell initially isn't able to corral the running back. I think it's McNichols. Then able to make the tackle for a very short gain. Give you the end zone angle so you can see how this works out. They are fanning out to the edge defender, which in this case is Zadarius Smith. So giving him kind of like almost like a pass set for a moment. And then they're leaving the inside linebackers unblocked, forcing them to make the play. You can see DJ Reader and Pascal are stunting and crossing faces. I think they could have done more of this. These guys are slant stepping here. Inside linebackers totally unblocked. Campbell is able to make the play for a short gain. 2nd and 10, very next snap. I think the refs have given the Lions an opportunity to sub here. Why? Well, because the last play was 21 personnel. This one is 11. I don't know what the rules are. I understand, I see that they were giving the Lions an opportunity to get lined up to match the numbers. Again, that switching from 21 personnel to 11 changes the dynamic in terms of who the defense wants on the field. Washington almost kind of let them get lined up, and I wonder about that. It makes me, to be honest with you, it confirms for me that Jaden Daniels is being told, hey, run this play against this look, and if we don't get that look, check to something else. It's not meant as an insult that they've simplified things for a rookie quarterback. It's, I think, a credit to the way that they've coached, and I think because he waited at least 3 times for the Lions to line up in those situations. I mean, hell, why not snap the ball, right? Why not? Because he's waiting to see the look. So he's waiting for confirmation for what play he should actually run. Like I said, this is a 2nd and 10, and you get Anzalone, I think, ends up being on the tight end, running across, and then Jack Campbell ends up being on Eckler, dropping Melifonwu down. I like these matchups better than some of the ones you saw later in the game where Melifonwu was one-on-one with the tight end. I just didn't think that matchup worked out well, and in fact, during the course of this video, you'll see a play that kind of goes along those lines and supports that. All right, so this next one is going to be a 3rd and 13 on the same series, the first possession. My apologies. I'm trying to show a picture between plays for various reasons. So 3rd and 13, I'm not sure how they ended up. I think there must have been a penalty here. Again, it's on the first possession, and they go with a 6-man rush. And my problem, well, first of all, Brian Branch does miss a tackle here, but essentially you got the same concept, the same dynamic plays out that we saw a moment ago with Eckler. He chips on the defensive end. This is Jamison Crowder, who's not as old as I thought he was. I went and looked up his age after the game because he had an impact. He played well, including this play right here. Like I said, it's a 3rd and 13. They're able to get the ball out to him against what I would consider another anomalous coverage with a 6-man rush. Doesn't look like a man designation here. You've got almost this kind of star post-snap route combination by the Commanders where both guys are slipping out into the flats after chipping. It's Crowder and then Eckler, the running back down here to the bottom side. Jaden Daniels kind of slides out to his right. I think Aaron Glenn has made this too easy on Jaden Daniels and with some of these coverages. I think these guys have been have just left too much space because they're allocating or committing too many resources, in my opinion, to try to get to the quarterback. You're welcome to let me know what you think of that thought. It's easy to say that, of course, this late in the game. We're talking about, I'm recording this Tuesday morning early. I wish I could have got this out earlier for you guys. They were obviously held on that, or failed 4th down conversion on that first possession, which gave Detroit the ball back, and Detroit was able to go down and score on their second possession to take a 7-0 lead. We'll move forward here to the second possession, and you just should notice how often they're switching personnel groups. This is 20 personnel, so you've got 2 running backs on the field, and I believe 3 wide receivers. So many personnel groups presented to the defense over the course of just the first 6 or 8 plays. And I think you've got a dual read into the boundary. Now, they're getting motion into the boundary with Zaccheaus, and I was impressed that Detroit was able to hold this to as short a gain as they did. I think Jaden Daniels gets 3 yards. But you can see what's being created by reading the defensive end, outside linebacker. You've now got 2 inside linebackers stepping with that, and it creates a 4-on-3. So here's the 3 for the Lions. There's the 4 for the Commanders, a numerical advantage. I think that Melifonwu does a nice job against the receiver, Zaccheaus, who's he's just not an overwhelming physical guy from a size and strength standpoint. So he's not able to do anything with Melifonwu there. Strings it out, even though it's a 4-on-3. You get a really great look at it right there. Jaden Daniels doesn't get much. In my opinion, when they were able to get Jaden Daniels pressed towards the sideline, string it out some, that was what was beneficial for this defense and gave them an opportunity to make stops. I'm comfortable if this is what you want to do, go to the running back and then fold over the top, essentially a gap exchange, if you will. The only thing is, Washington's blocked it up. They've got a number advantage down into the boundary. A lot of teams will roll safeties on motion against option teams. I've got some familiarity with that from a coaching standpoint, from an observation standpoint. Detroit didn't really want to roll. Primarily, they were playing man, and it doesn't really afford you that opportunity. You're just going to run across if you're playing man and try to match up with your guy who's moving from one side to the other. Same possession. This is after the 3 yard gain. It's a 2nd and 7, and it's 12 personnel. And notice the coverage. It's the same thing that I've talked about. You're leaving 5 guys in coverage. Just seems like a whole lot of space for these guys to try to cover. And it's just a little out to McLaurin against Terrion Arnold. Too much space there, in my opinion, with the tight end up the seam. 2 underneath droppers. It's Anzalone and I think Melifonwu. 3 DBs. From a coverage standpoint, there's just too much room across the width of the field for 2 underneath guys. For me, if this is what you're going to do, you might as well just play man, in my opinion. I think it ends up being an 11-yard gain. Easy lane to throw for Jaden Daniels, if you ask me. And it's not like we're talking about 5-step drop pass concepts. So I get it. People are going to say, well, the pass rush isn't getting there. He's literally catching the ball and beginning to throw extremely quickly. There's no pass rush that's going to get there consistently when the quarterback is getting rid of it so quickly, in my opinion. Second possession here still. And I think we've got a 1st and 10. That was actually this is a 3rd and 10. My apologies. Still second possession. This is a 3rd and 10. And it looks to me like they're dropping to a cover 3. One of the things you can kind of tell about some teams who don't play a lot of cover 3 is when they do, it looks a little bit messy. Now, there's a long yardage situation here. So the line of scrimmage is the -45. The yard to gain is the positive 45. But watch these guys' reactions. Kirby Joseph is dropping down. My presumption is that we've got a cover 3 here, and Joseph is dropping down to be the hook to curl player, essentially an inside linebacker drop. Branch is the curl to flat. He's usually extremely good in zone. Just a stop route by the slot here. Again, I think it's Crowder, who, like I said, had an impact. And this is too easy. It's not that it's too easy from a pass rush standpoint. It's too easy, in my opinion, and it brings me no joy to say this. Brian Branch just focused on the quarterback too much. We're not matching the width of the routes at all. Essentially, we're out leveraged. I'm not saying that Branch should be out here. Then possibly the lane to throw is in here to the inside shoulder of Crowder. But this is just too damn easy. And I think part of it is because Branch is staring at the quarterback the whole time. Like I said, this is a 3rd and 10 on that same possession, that second possession, where Washington's going to go down and be able to get a score. Very next play, and this basically turns into triple option. It's a give, so that we don't see the phases of it. It's a numbers game for real, and I don't pretend to be an expert on the option necessarily, but watch how this works out when Jaden Daniels puts the ball in the running back's gut. So you've got 3 players up here for the Commanders, and you've got, I don't know if you guys can even see all of that. My apologies. You've got a corner there. Actually, it's Brian Branch. You've got a corner off screen right here. You can see there's Kirby Joseph. Jack Campbell is presumably the read player because there's no edge defender. So he would be matching the numbers if Daniels kept it. So what I mean by that is it would be 4-on-4. Jaden Daniels doesn't keep it, but let's say he does keep it. Jack Campbell would be the fourth player trying to match those numbers. I understand that. The problem is when you pull a guard from one side of the formation to the other, you've created another player to that side. So the numbers have changed down into the boundary. This ends up being a huge gain. I think Campbell and then one of the free safeties, Melifonwu, makes the play. I don't know what Melifonwu was doing here. I don't understand his reaction to this other than he's keying Jaden Daniels from, 15 yards depth. I don't get it. Maybe 13 yards depth. When you get the end zone angle, you've got frontside guard pulling and kicking, backside guard pulling and wrapping, and Melifonwu is working this way. None of that makes any damn sense to me at all, unless it's a predetermined role. If it's a predetermined role, then I'm not sure why Jack Campbell isn't crossing the midline. So what I mean by this, from a numerical standpoint, once the back sets to the field, remember, you've got trips, or bunch, I should say, over here. Theoretically, Jaden Daniels could throw the ball out there for a screen. When this guard crosses over, you can't lose both Jack Campbell and Melifonwu. Otherwise, you don't have sufficient numbers over here to stop the play. I hate to whittle it down to just numbers, but to a certain degree, that's what the option becomes. They are kicking out Zadarius Smith, who goes low and cuts the front side guard. Anzalone is pinned by the tight end, who's got a great angle. We would expect him to be pinned. Arnold steps to the outside. Huge lane here. Someone has to fill, whether it's Jack Campbell, Melifonwu, whatever. One of those guys, if you ask me, needed to. Well, Melifonwu either needed to stay on that side and not roll, or Jack Campbell needed to cross the midline and match the numbers, if you will. That dynamic was recreated multiple times on these trips or bunch sets. It's a counter option scheme, and don't get me wrong, it creates tremendous conflicts. A credit to Cliff Kingsbury for having those things in and relying on them so often. You've got a slot fade here against man on a 2nd and 10. We're skipping some plays. This is still the second possession. So cool thing here, Zadarius Smith peeling to the running back into the flats. So basically collisioning that running back. I believe in those types of things. You do lose a pass rusher there, obviously. But Jaden Daniels knows where he's going with this football. There is no doubt about it. He's going up top to the slot fade. You've got man down here at the bottom side. Terrion Arnold against McLaurin. Melifonwu falls down against the tight end. It's a great rep, if you ask me, for Brian Branch against number 14. From a coverage standpoint, I liked that matchup. I would have preferred, at times, Anzalone being on the tight end. I feel like he's more sound than Melifonwu. Maybe has better contact balance when the tight end tries to get physical with him. This is, in fact, the drive where the Lions hold them to a field goal. Detroit had gone down to make it 7-0, and they hold to a field goal here. Here's the third down play. This one looked complete live time for me. It's man, 11 personnel bunch. And there's a lot of glitch plays in here. Now, Washington Commanders fans, don't like it, I'm sure. And no team does. But when I say glitch, what I mean is you're getting multiple releases from the bunch, and the outside receiver, or in this case, the inside receiver, is often protected on their release. So you're just creating a layered release for receivers in a way that forces the defense, when they're in man, to be running behind. There's a lot of space here. Not a huge fan of this delayed blitz with Jack Campbell, but I understand you want to try to spy Jaden Daniels. It's what an athletic quarterback, a dual threat quarterback, if you will, it's how they impact the game, right? You need to allocate more resources to hold the quarterback run game down late. Believe me, I understand that dynamic. I'm a Lamar Jackson fan, first and foremost. The throw is slightly behind here, and you will get the end zone angle to, I think it's De'Ami Brown. And as a result of the throw being slightly behind, Kendall Vildor is able to catch up to it, knock the ball away. Same play from the end zone angle. So here's what I'm talking about with Jack Campbell. You got this huge amount of space because of the pass rush, but I don't think some things were well coordinated in this game. So what I mean is, it's a stunt here. Zadarius Smith looping underneath. On those types of stunts, the quarterback isn't going to scramble up the middle immediately. And Campbell is stepping forward. I'd like to see him in this middle of the field in a man-free situation. So basically, typical man-free is a four-man rush with the free safety in the middle of the field or matching some route, and then an inside linebacker, Mike linebacker, if you will, in between the hashes or in between the middle of the formation, trying to help out. You can see what I mean when I say the throw is a little bit behind. Dyami Brown had to slow up, and what that does is it brings the DB back into play. If this ball is thrown here and Dyami Brown doesn't have to slow up, 95% chance it's a completion, and Washington is moving on to a new set of downs. As it stands, they had to settle for a field goal that got them to within 7-3. All right, we'll move on to the next possession, the third possession, that is. And this is 10 personnel for Washington, which is very rarely seen. So what that means is there's one running back and no tight ends. We got two receivers here, two receivers here. Very rarely utilized, but it makes sense for Cliff Kingsbury to be using it, given his history and who he played under. It's a great run concept, and so what I think's happening here is because it's 10 personnel, the Lions, first of all, they're not rolling. So they're not rolling one safety down and then bringing another safety up top. So they're not basically skying to the motion. You got to give where they're reading the outside linebacker, number one. This boundary side inside linebacker, in this case, field side inside linebacker, excuse me, in this case, Jack Campbell, he's being held by the motion. So if Jaden Daniels was able to keep it, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 players. Jack Campbell is the fourth player that allows the Lions to match it. As a result, along with them not blocking the edge defender to the field, huge numerical advantage back to the boundary against the grain of the motion. It's just a zone scheme where you're fold blocking, pin pull, if you will, with the guard down on DJ Reader, the center pulling and wrapping up to the inside linebacker. Same concept. Backside inside linebacker Jack Campbell isn't there. He's pulled by the motion or the call. But really what we have here is Detroit against 10 personnel going from being ultra aggressive, those three under, 2 deep coverages that I talked about a handful of times so far, to sticking in their 2 high look, not rolling against motion. So credit to Cliff Kingsbury for creating that dynamic, taking advantage of it, if you will. When you get the end zone angle here, look, you'll see what's happening from a run fit standpoint. I didn't think DJ Reader had much of an impact. Not sure why. It seemed as if they were slant stepping him more often as opposed to just letting him play in a 3 technique. Additional to that, there was times where they're in 2-3s with the D tackle. It's kind of a split 40 look. Didn't like it, but you get a down block here. Center's going to pull and wrap to Anzalone, who is just off screen to you guys left. Campbell is detached, and the read man, from a numbers advantage, you're losing not 1 but 2 players. Huge gain to begin the third possession for Brian Robinson. A center log play, if you will, but some people just call it pin pull zone. Still third possession here. And an option read versus a split 40 look. When you get the end zone angle, I'll try to explain that split 40 look. It's Robinson again. A lot going on, all right, from a commander standpoint. You got 2 receivers down here, 2 receivers off screen to the top of your screen for you guys that you can not really see. And so what they've done is widened the Lions defense out. Well, force them to widen out. So Brian Branch is going to go blitz, and what they're trying to do is force a give read by Jaden Daniels with his defensive end, Pascal, and let Brian Branch run it down from behind. He just didn't have that closing burst at times. Also here, he's stepping up to Jaden Daniels. This is a auto call. And so what I mean by that is Pascal is on the quarterback. That's a poorly drawn line. My apologies. Pascal is on the quarterback. Branch should be on the running back. I don't think he demonstrates trust here with these steps. And as a result, he's not able to close down and catch up with Robinson at all, who goes on a horizontal path. Now, look, maybe Branch doesn't get there anyway, but it's those little steps, if you ask me, that caused him to be later than he should have. drawn up on paper, this looks good, right? Pascal upfield, Branch going through the B gap here. These guys get caught up. And so as this option play occurs, just too many guys on the backside. The split 40 look didn't work at all. They're gap stepping DJ Reader down from a 3 technique. They're stepping him down into the A gap. And then, I mean, we're all getting closed off back here. We're closed off back here to this side. There's the Reed man stepping upfield. So, again, numbers advantage into the boundary. Here's your 3 initial defenders for the Lions. Tackle, guard, center, and you can see the ball carrier. All the Lions guys are closed off here on the backside. I don't think Brian Branch showed good discipline or trust, if you will, with the concept, the blitz that he was on. And I'll replay it a couple times so you guys can see it. I'm talking about right here. He shouldn't be charging the mesh. He should be running down the heels of the offensive line, trusting that if Jaden Daniels keeps it, Josh Pascal is going to make the play. But who knows? Maybe they taught it like that. I don't see a reason to do that if you're selling out to stop the freaking option. You're selling out to stop it, and that blitz to me sure looks like selling out. My apologies. Like I said, I'm loading up the next play. I'm off screen for you guys. Had a little bit of trouble with my software this morning trying to get everything ready. So we've moved into the second quarter here, but we're still on the third possession. This is a 2nd and 5, and Washington goes 12 personnel. They went 10 personnel and ran the football. 10 personnel, ran the football. Now they go 12 and they go deep after the Lions. This is just an opportunity for Detroit to execute what I would call their falling off coverage. So when they get crossers, sometimes instead of chasing, the corner will just fall off and look for the other crosser. I'm quite familiar with this concept. It's something that we used at times depending on the opponent and the formation. So Terrion Arnold falls off. And what I mean by that is he passes De'Ami Brown across on the over concept, and he looks for the crosser from the opposite side. Kirby Joseph initially is kind of jumping it. I would say this is like their cover 3 jump. So what I mean by that is it allows Kirby Joseph to jump the first crosser. And in this case, he's sitting on this one. I think it's McLaurin, but I could be wrong. Additional to that, tight end chip out into the flats, tight end out into the flats. So all this space is over the top, and Kendall Vildor is, I don't know what he's doing exactly, just no awareness at all of De'Ami Brown. If he plays it the same way that Terrion Arnold does, at least you have an opportunity to match up with that route, in space, of course, from the other side of the field. So, maybe you're not going to stop it anyway. Jaden Daniels is certainly throwing from a very clean platform. Ends up being a huge gain on the third possession to start the second quarter. I thought the loss of Amik Robertson was tremendous for this Detroit Lions defense. A great signing by Brad Holmes to bring in Amik Robertson, who could play nickel, who could play outside corner, and when you guys needed him to, he transitioned to outside corner and did a nice job. To lose him so early in the game is extremely unfortunate. This is going to be the 4th and 3 in the second quarter, where Washington is going to be able to take a 10-7 lead. This is a 4th and 3 that they get a conversion over the middle to the tight end. Branch is coming on a blitz. Also, Anzalone's on a blitz, dropping the OLB from the other side. I have no idea what their rules are taught here, but let's start on this particular coverage. Let's start with the running back crosses your face or tries to cross your face out into the flats. If Anzalone is blitzing and Branch is blitzing, then obviously Nowaski's got to peel with that running back. Right? That's not what happens. But let's go through the different options. If he crosses to this side, Nowaski's not going to play a role there. Someone has to be responsible for that on the other side. Well, what ends up occurring is neither of those. The running back steps up to help pass pro, and Nowaski has no threat at all. He's just too slow to respond. But we got to recognize what the Lions are dealing with on defense. I'm not a huge fan of this concept on the 4th and 3. For me, I don't want Terry McLaurin or Zach Ertz to get a free release and beat us. In my opinion, Jack Campbell's got to be a little bit more physical here with this guy. I get it that we're matching up man, Kirby Joseph on the running back, man on the on McLaurin in the slot, and then Melifonwu is supposed to be manned here on the tight end. That matchup just did not work out at all. For my money, I'd like to see Jack Campbell be a little bit more physical and not just let the tight end cross his face. Not a huge fan of the coverage decision there, in my opinion, on a 4th and 3. Like I said, this is their third possession. Third possession where they're able to go down, I believe, and take a 10-7 lead. All right, so we'll move to the 4th possession here. It's going to be a quick one. Another 3-on-2 situation, fast break, if you will, but not a fast break that's reckless from an offensive play caller standpoint. So the running back is crossing the quarterback's face, very similar to that counter run play that we talked about earlier. So great sequential play calling by Kingsbury, and the Lions have fallen into the trap. Of course, this is Terry McLaurin's screen, basic little screen behind the line of scrimmage. It's a 3-on-2. There's just no way to describe it in any other manner. From a numbers standpoint, someone, Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, the boundary side free safety, someone's got to get involved over here. It's 3. This looks like to me a defense that was playing the coverage and the blitz that was called in the huddle and not adjusting once the offense lined up. Forcing another give read to the quarterback with the D end, and then trying to utilize Campbell and Branch running behind in case it is a give to the running back. Or it should be a give to the running back if he's reading it. The problem is it's not even a read play at all. They're showing the counter look, but Jaden Daniels already knows where he's going with the football because he identified Branch as a blitzer. McLaurin takes it to the house. Huge moment, if you ask me. I believe that the Lions had gone down to take a 14-10 lead. This reestablished the Commanders 17-10 from a numbers standpoint, just totally outflanked. How much of it is players' fault? Look, some of it certainly is, right? They're being thrown so many different personnel looks, so many different formations that they can't keep up. But to a certain degree, that has to fall on the defensive staff. It's those guys' job to prepare them. They didn't have them prepared. Now, was there requisite talent there to shut down Washington's offense? No. There wasn't requisite talent there to hold this Washington offense to 14 points or less, in my opinion. Could they have played a better quality of defense? Absolutely. If we're not going to sit here and hold the coaches accountable for the tactical decisions they made, then what are we doing? I shouldn't be trying to do this, number one, and you shouldn't be listening to it, second of all. Unfortunately for the Lions, they threw a pick 6 on their next possession, I believe, so it ends up being 24-14. They closed to 24-21. I do want to go over 4 more plays from the second quarter. I recognize that this video has gone a long way. My apologies for that. If you have ever considered supporting me on Patreon for the work that I do, it is $4.99 a month for Lions fans. You get access to a Lions Discord. We did not anticipate talking about the draft or anything like that at this time. Nonetheless, that's where we are. So in the Lions Discord, we've started to talk about what types of players or positions people would like to see breakdowns of on Twitter or even in our Discord, because oftentimes I share plays and evaluations of things in the Discord that I don't put on YouTube and I don't put on the Patreon. So if you've ever given that any thought to supporting the work that I do, it would surely be appreciated, because February and March tend to be really slow months as far as YouTube revenue generated. I'll be upfront. So if you could consider that, or at least check the link, I would really appreciate it. So 5th possession here, I believe that at this point, it's 24-21. Detroit has gotten the reverse by Jameson Williams for the huge touchdown after Jared Goff was hurt. It was a really cool play, man. Kingsbury's manipulating the hell out of the Lions. So you've got another situation where there's bunch up to the top side. Let me make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, you got bunch up to the top side. So 3 receivers out of 11 personnel. Again, this is 5th possession. It's 24-21. Tight end closed down here. Very similar dynamic to one of the counter option plays that I showed you. Was a give to the running back for a big gain, 8 yards, I think. And then the touchdown to McLaurin on the screen on the previous possession, the 4th one. And now a little delay handoff, and they're pulling the tackle to the field, creating a huge numbers advantage there. Why? Well, Detroit has over adjusted, which makes sense, right? Because of the bunch up here, they've apexed Jack Campbell out, an inside linebacker, and they put Melifonwu in the box to match it. For me, I'd like to invert that. I'd like to invert it if you're going to play man, and then on motion, go ahead and run Melifonwu across the field. Look at this large amount of space that Terrion Arnold is responsible for. Because of the pulling tackle, ends up being a huge lane there for Eckler to fit under. So the scheme is going to be the tackle pull. I think he gets up to Anzalone, and the seam or the lane, if you will, for Eckler is underneath of the wall of down blocks here, and then inside of the kick out block by that tackle on the pull or the wrap, if you will. Really nice concept that gets them 8 yards. Second and 2, very next play. Look, this is a Ravens play. This is a straight up Ravens play where they go tackle over. So you've got guard, tackle, tackle, and then guard, tight end to the backside. We do this, I think, to shorten the edge for the quarterback on a keep. And here, because of the flare or shoot release by the tight end, Melifonwu is going with that. It's man. Additional to that, down here, Dyami Brown's being matched by Kendall Vildor. So real isolation of Zadarius Smith with Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels keeps it, widens his path. Too easy once Zadarius Smith steps down. Like I said, it's a 2nd and 2 after the 8-yard gain by Austin Eckler. End zone angle of the same play. It's an unbalanced offensive line. So you've got guard, tight end, like I described, and the tight end is releasing in a pass route. Over here, you've got an overreaction by the Lions post snap. So once Anzalone goes here and the tight end is being matched up with Melifonwu, complete isolation of Zadarius Smith in that situation. You have to vary the read. You can't do the same. You can't have the same reaction every time against the option, right? You got to vary the read depending on formation, depending on situation. And they were just way ahead of the Lions players. Does part of that fall back on Aaron Glenn? I mean, I think it does. He's the guy responsible for it, the guy getting paid, if not millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars to be responsible for it. I would love to sit here and right now be doing a video on how they held the Commanders to 17 points and did a fantastic job against the option. I would really enjoy telling you all those things. Nonetheless, it didn't happen, so I can't do so. All right, same drive, 5th possession, like I said. Now they've gone 12 personnel and just manipulation again of the Lions defense. They've elicited this look with Melifonwu and Branch up here. Motion across by Dyami Brown means that it's going to be man. Terrion Arnold running with him. And this is a great throw by Jaden Daniels. I thought he missed 3 or 4 shorter throws in the game. When I say missed, he didn't put them in the right spot to make it as high a percentage opportunity for completion as possible. But 3 of his deep throws were exceptional. This was one of them, probably the best, right? I mean, he's throwing it, and Kirby Joseph is trying to recover. First of all, you're throwing it knowing that Kirby Joseph is out there. So ballsy, number one. But Joseph is fading to this side, which he had done 3 times prior to this play in the first half. So from a Commander's perspective, they're, number one, they have plays they've already designed, but I think they're reacting really well to things that the Lions are showing or things that have succeeded for them already and using that as bait or setup to exploit the Lions later on. You'll see the end zone angle of this one. Brown motions across. So you got these 2 guys dual reading the tight end. So the way this works is if the tight end steps to the D end, Zadarius Smith in this case, then Melifonwu will go on a blitz. If the tight end steps to Melifonwu or releases to the inside, Melifonwu will cover him, and the D end will go on a blitz. And that's what the first edition of how I explained this, what occurred. You can see that Terrion Arnold is covering Dyami Brown, and you get an eye on Kirby Joseph, how he's shifting to our left, his right, away from that route. And so Jaden Daniels knows where he's going with the football already. No doubt about it. Puts it out there. Again, to get that ball over the top of Joseph, to even attempt the throw with Joseph being a guy who was there. But to Jaden Daniels' credit, he knew that Kirby Joseph wasn't going to be able to make a play on it because of where he had moved immediately post-snap. Really brilliant throw, also really brilliant recognition immediately after the snap. Finally, this is the touchdown that puts him up 31-21. This video has gone on incredibly long. My apologies for that. There's no reason to really go over anything in the second half. I didn't think things really changed other than the one possession to start the third quarter. Detroit was fortunate to get a stop. This is a touchdown to Zach Ertz on 3rd and goal. And so I'm not a huge fan of the matchups that they're using here. Personally, with Eckler on the field, I would feel comfortable with Jack Campbell covering him. Austin Eckler's had a very productive NFL career, and he's doing a good job for the Commanders. But he's not super talented compared to the athletic traits that Jack Campbell has. I would have wanted Anzalone on the tight end here, number one. Number two, I'm not sure why you're letting him cross your face like this. Zach Ertz went in motion, bringing his route here. Little wiggle coming back. It's a great throw by Jaden Daniels, and it's a great catch by Ertz. For me, and I said this in the reaction video, I'm going to make him beat me on a fade or an out. I'm not going to let him cross my face at this point in his career. Not a super fast twitch athlete compared to some of the guys that Lions do have, mainly Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. Those matchups you couldn't use because Branch is being allocated in another location. Well, in some situations, Branch is blitzing, but oftentimes against the Commanders, he was responsible for a wide receiver, so they had to use Melifonwu in man. Credit to Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels for recognizing it. That's just too much space. To let the guy cross your face like that in that situation, late second quarter, like I said, I think at that point it's 24-21 Commanders on 3rd and goal. There can't be this much space there on a route with a slower twitch tight end compared to some of the other guys that there are in the NFL. He's playing this weekend, and they've done a great job, so they deserve all the credit. But I think that Melifonwu, if I had to choose, I'd say, hey, we're going to get beat on a fade or get beat on a deep out. We're not going to let him cross our face. I didn't think Detroit's offense was super prepared. I think the film kind of reflects that. If it took me too long to get those points across, my apologies. It's been very difficult to get content produced in the last 2.5 days. Nothing's wrong. Just situations at home and with my job have necessitated dedicating more time than normal. In any case, this is my look at the Lions defense. Not an abject failure, but Commanders created so much conflict that the Lions, really their reactions in each case, not every play, but many cases, was just wrong. And Jaden Daniels and those guys had options, pardon the pun there, to go to, no matter how they lined up. Really exploited Detroit's defense, I thought. One final thought, I mentioned this earlier. If you listened this long, first of all, thank you. But on the Ben Johnson note, I will be up front. When I thought that he was going to go to Las Vegas, the Raiders fan base is huge. I've had some exposure and experience to the Raiders fan base 3 years ago, and they blessed my channel tremendously, just like Lions fans have. And I had intended, I even said to a guy who does Raiders content, I said, let's do something because I have some knowledge about Ben Johnson's offense. We can do some content. I'll put some videos out and court some views from Raiders fans because I know what they're like. They're just like Lions fans. They consume at a ridiculous rate, number one. Number two, intelligent, offer great perspectives and feedback that just influences or encourages you as a content creator to do something else. So I was kind of looking forward to that. I wasn't looking forward to Ben Johnson leaving, but I was kind of looking forward to, okay, well, there's an opportunity there for me selfishly, personally, with the channel to use my knowledge of Ben Johnson's offense. If you don't know, I have the entire 2023 film categorized and labeled personnel down, formation down, distance, play concept. I don't have 2024 categorized in that manner, just not enough time to be able to do so. And then for him to sign with the Bears was like, oh, it was a little bit of a letdown for me personally. And then to see that he already had staff picked out, apparently, I went back and watched Dan Campbell's pregame interview. I encourage you to do the same. There's a different dynamic there. I don't know how to describe it. I'm not going all conspiracy theory, but I do wonder if Dan Campbell and the Lions staff knew that Ben Johnson was pretty much already gone and that he had not done the game prep that was requisite or required, that it was typical for him, which is unfortunate for me to even mention that because of the body of work that Ben Johnson put in Detroit. Do I think Dan Campbell played a role in the offense? Of course, absolutely. Do I think that they'll be able to retain much of what Ben Johnson created? Sure, I do. They've got a lot of those guys coming back. Could there be some regression early? Yeah, I would almost kind of compare it to Mike McDonald leaving the Ravens as a kind of genius or wonder kid defense coordinator, and the Ravens taking time to kind of get things acclimated before the last 6 or 8 weeks of the season. The Ravens defense is top 5 in the league. In any case, you guys let me know what you think of those thoughts in the film study video that I put out for you here. Admittedly, very late in the game. If you have any other film study requests from Saturday's game, please let me know in the comment section. I will put out a Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery type comparison video, hopefully Friday or Saturday, somewhere in that area, because I don't plan on watching the championship games or doing any work related to those at all. Appreciate you guys' time, man.